time now for everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is time.
It's time for a good old-fashioned Q&A, MMA fans.
Elephant in the room. Earlier today did announce that Kayla would be joining us. She has a pretty big conflict that she forgot about, and so Kayla has always been great. No hard feelings. She will join us very, very soon in the near future, as will DDP. I know the haters and the detractors are relishing the fact that back-to-back shows we have cancellations. It is quite remarkable that this doesn't happen very often. Nothing upsets me more, not because I blame them, but I just don't like to announce and then have to do this, essentially. But these things happen in MMA, and schedules happen, and miscommunications happen, and life happens. We are always very thankful and grateful whenever anyone comes on, and despite your trolling, we know that it is all from a place of love. So thank you. All right, let's get into the questions, shall we? Because we have a lot to discuss. Second week in a row that it's moderator Ariel taking the steering wheel. And I have to say, Frank, I don't know.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, fair. You know, who's counting, right?
Who's permanent at this point?
Am I?
I had a headhunter approach me about moderating another segment on another show.
I just wanted to know, like, am I the interim moderator, or are we taking that label off? Like, what am I?
Feels like this is permanent. I don't know why you're asking us.
I don't know.
I'll let you know when I want to be tagged back.
Okay.
Doesn't feel like Frank has much of a say here.
You know, I do like it's a little bit more, obviously, but I will say that I do kind of like being able to craft the direction of where we go. Like, you know, again, this is what I love about Frank. Frank actually reminds me a lot of myself because he's very sensitive and I'm very sensitive. So when I say this, I know he's going to be dissecting it and
he's already been dissecting. We went through all the texts from earlier today.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Did you see that I used the invisible ink?
Yeah.
So
that reminds me, I need to take that function off your phone.
he bought on the this has nothing to do with you. I was like, no, I feel like this is everything to do with Frankie.
It's just
I think it's everything to do.
Kayla, for example, if Frank was moderating today, it would be like Kayla Harrison, Netflix, UFC 300, and the first question would be about, like, you know, how many slices of pizza should you have with
Bingo.
Frank? You know what I mean?
It's just like this is what I'm saying. He doesn't do a good enough job. He's been fired, and you've replaced him. Let's not beat around the bush here. He's been fired. You have replaced him.
I'm just saying, it's like massive news.
Has nothing to do with him.
Conor McGregor's coming back, and it's like, how do you like your Sunday? You know, it's just like time and place. You know, it's like the Sean Strickland question, time and place, right? Anyway.
Nothing to do with you.
Frank, are we okay? Am I going to get a text tonight? Probably. Hey, man, can you talk for a second?
This feels like a phone call. This feels like a phone call.
All right, fine. Let's go. Hugo, hello, Ariel. Was the news of Kayla Harrison versus Holly Holm the golden nugget you teased several weeks ago? So obviously I didn't use the term golden nugget. I said rabbit in the hat. And yes, that was it. This has been in the works for quite some time. And again, I reiterate, I never said, I saw some people saying the rabbit in the hat was a women's bantamweight fight. The rabbit in the hat was a Holly Holm fight. The rabbit in the hat was a prelim fight. The rabbit in the hat was Kayla Harrison. Excuse me. What I said time and again was, because I knew this would get misconstrued, and I'm not the promoter, I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, which ended up, you know, coming to fruition. The rabbit in the hat was something that kind of came out of left field, and I think Kayla fighting at 135 is a little left field, considering the fact that the majority of her career was at 55, 50, one fight at 46, and nothing below that as an MMA fighter. Pretty freaking unique. Her leaving PFL, signing with the UFC when, of course, we have the co-founder of PFL on the show just last week saying, no, she has one fight left. Pretty big deal. Fighting on 300. Pretty big deal. Against the former champion. Pretty big deal. I mean, this feels like, did I miscategorize this, GC? I mean, is this not fair? 6 out of 7, rabbit in the hat, nothing that's going to blow the doors off, nothing that's going to headline, maybe not even be on the main card, but I feel like I categorized this pretty fairly. Would you not say?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
This is a nice little rabbit in the hat. I mean, you're getting a two-time gold medalist.
Yep. Back to back.
Considered to be one of the best women's mixed martial artists right now, and now she gets to take the test in the UFC, see if she can become champion. I mean, the door is wide open at 135. It kind of feels like after this past weekend, 135 needs needs to be revitalized, and maybe this is it. Maybe if she becomes champion, I know Juliana Peña's gonna be trying to stand in her way. I actually got the Venezuelan Vixen hoodie on underneath the jersey.
Yeah, know yourself. Yeah,
she's gonna be standing in the way, but say she does get the belt. Amanda Nunes was talking about potentially coming back.
There's so all of a sudden it feels like 2 days later.
I think it's a great addition to the prelims of UFC 300.
It's fun, it's fresh, it's different, and all of a sudden you got now Peña Pennington. There's a backstory there. If Kayla wins, and let's see about 135, we're going to talk about that in a moment. You've got Kayla versus the winner of that fight, which is huge. You have the potential. Remember, before Kayla Cyborg, what was the fight? The fight was Kayla Nunes. Before Kayla Cyborg, the fight that we all wanted was Kayla Nunes. Does that happen? Does Nunes come out of retirement to fight Kayla Harrison, the former ATT teammates? There's a lot there. So yes, that was the rabbit in the hat. I think I categorized it very, very fairly. I love the fact that it happened. And to me, it just made the card even bigger. So shout out to everyone involved. Logan, just as the news broke that the UFC had signed Kayla Harrison, the first thing I thought was to come here with all my questions. Although you will likely answer some of them on the show, here are a few that I have. Well, here you go. Your time to shine, Logan. Why did Dawn Davis seem to think she was obligated for one more fight? So this is what happened. Kayla Harrison had a contract. Her and her team's reading of said contract was there's an expiration date on this contract. There's a term. Many contracts either have X amount of fights that need to be fulfilled or a term. And, we saw this with the likes of Francis Ngannou recently. And I know that there was a lot more to that with the exclusivity period and whatnot. But in Kayla's case, her understanding and reading of the contract was there was a term that had elapsed come the beginning of this year. And that's why when she was on the program, she said, no, I still have one more, meaning the one coming up on that Friday, the Black Friday fight. And that was against Aspen Ladd. And then once that was done, they weren't going to do a show in December. She knew that. So her understanding was, I'm done. The PFL's understanding and Dawn Davis's understanding was we still have one more fight. Because, yes, technically, the fights hadn't been fulfilled. But it's whatever comes first. It's either the term or the fights, whichever comes first. So you could get rid of all the fights in less, and it's done. Or you could get to the term before the fights are done, and you're done. And so there was that difference of opinion. And so when I asked him that question, and when I asked Juliana Peña the question about her at 35, I knew in the back of my mind that she was sitting on an offer from the UFC to fight Holly Holm at UFC 300 at 135. That's why I asked these questions. That's why I was hinting at these things. And so I was curious to see what Don said, and he said what he said. And then ultimately, I was told in the last day or so they got it done. Then I asked Don Davis about it. And his response, as I tweeted this morning, was, we're not going to stand in her way. So for whatever reason, they relented. I would love to ask more about this to either Dawn or Kayla or anyone involved, because just being the sort of vet in the business that I am, I have a hard time believing that PFL just said, yeah, sure, you could take her. At the end of the day, you could take her. Were phone calls made? Were there discussions? Were here's the bottom line. If you're the UFC right now, if people want to get into legal battles, they've got infinite funds, right? They could get into these sort of tit for tats. It's not worth it ultimately for the PFL to do it, especially when you have a second half of the equation who isn't a willing participant. And I'm referring to Chris Cyborg. And this is going to upset Chris Cyborg's husband much more than it upsets her, because I think that the majority of the stuff that you see online from Chris Cyborg isn't coming from her, which I think is unfortunate. I think the stuff of buying the URL with people's name like Katzengano and judokayla.com is, to steal a phrase from the kids these days, incredibly cringe. A lot of the stuff is cringe, and I'm sorry. And that's why I got annoyed at the tweet from 2 weeks ago, because they knew exactly what was going on. They knew that Kayla's contract was done. They knew that there were talks with the UFC. They knew everything, and they wanted to play the game that she was ducking, that she didn't want the fight on February 24th, even though Cyborg had a boxing match this past weekend, and PFL didn't feel comfortable announcing a fight before a fight, rightfully so. They knew that Kayla couldn't take that fight because she was out of contract. But they wanted the public to believe that, oh yeah, finally that they're under the same roof and umbrella, it's Kayla the one that's ducking. Even though Kayla Harrison was the one who signed a deal with Bellator a year and a half ago to try to fight Cyborg in Hawaii, and then PFL matched it. Come on, give me a break. And now we're gonna claim on Twitter that Kayla ducked. Are you kidding me? Kayla Harrison has won back-to-back $1 million tournaments. Back-to-back. What else is there for her to do in PFL? Just look at Michael Chandler. Look at anyone who goes from any other organization to the UFC. You become 10 times more popular, 10 times more famous, 10 times more richer. This is an absurd. You're gonna sit there and say that Kayla Harrison is ducking you by not re-signing with PFL, which PFL wanted her to resign. They wanted to keep her around. They wanted to make that fight at some point, and now it's easier than ever because they've acquired Bellator. But there's no guarantees that Cyborg's going to take that fight either. There's no guarantees. Kayla Harrison has an opportunity to fight at UFC 300, to fight in a number one contender fight against a former champion like Holly Holm. You don't think she's going to take that fight? This is the ultimate competitor. She's a back-to-back Olympic gold medalist. Back-to-back Olympic gold medalist. She's accomplished everything. She was the face of PFL. She put the PFL on the map. She's going to go out there and take this opportunity. I'm not surprised. I think it's a brilliant move on her part. I think it's a brilliant move on the UFC's part, and it's a move that is reminiscent somewhat to WWE and AEW. AEW gained some momentum. They're feeling themselves. What does WWE do? They take Cody Rhodes. They take one of the pillars. They take one of the faces. AEW feeling themselves. What do? They take a Jade Cargill. They take a homegrown star. AEW feeling themselves. What does WWE do? They take a CM Punk after everything that happened there. Like PFL feeling himself, we're going to take the face of your organization. And look, the whole ship isn't going to sink, but this, I think, is a blow to PFL. She's a legit star and one of the faces of the company and someone that they've been backing and investing in for quite some time. This is a blow, in my opinion. It's a nice coup for UFC. It's a blow for PFL. And I just felt it was very disingenuous that they were trying to spin this as her ducking Chris Cyborg. Get out of here. Meanwhile, Chris Cyborg is on Twitter. Her admin is on Twitter pitching Dana White a fight against Amanda Nunes at 300. Are you kidding me? There's a better chance of me fighting at 300 than that fight getting made for 300. Are you kidding? Come on. And then you're going to say that she's ducking when you're trying to get the same deal. Come on. So this is nonsense. Kayla made the right call. The big question is, though, 135. This is the big question. She's never fought below 145, 146. Can she make 135? In fact, do we have this clip, GC? We didn't talk about it before. Do we have the clip from way back in the day on the program?
No, but I can have it in.
Yes, that would be great. My good friend Andrew Feldman found this when I asked her about entering MMA many moons ago. I think, what was it? 6 years ago? 7 years ago? Something like that. I think he had the date on the tweet. And she said at the time she would have to cut off her leg to make 135. She's considerably more muscular and bigger now. I don't know. I'll be honest, in my conversations with her, I expressed the same thing. Like, can you really make 135? Will you kill yourself to make 135? We remember when Cyborg signed a deal with the UFC and had to, try to cut to 140 and almost killed herself, it seemed. It certainly looked like it to make 140. Not worth it. Will your life be different? Will your quality of life be different if you have to cut to 135? Ultimate gamer, ultimate competitor. She seems to think that she'll be able to do it. Can she do it once? Can she do it consistently if she becomes number one contender and champion? All remains to be seen. But I think that's part of the reason why Holly Holm liked this fight very much. Holly Holm and her team likes this fight because it's a high-profile fight on a high-profile card, and she needs a high-profile win. And they probably think that she is her opponent, Kayla, is going to deplete herself on the way down to 135, and rightfully so. She's never done it before. It's going to be a tough cut, and that will be to their advantage. So this is, how could you not be? This is great. This is great theater. Another question here from Logan. What does this mean for the future of the bantamweight division? This signing blows wide open what was considered an aging division. I agree. First of all, it is confirmation that 145 is dead. Because if it was a thing, you signed Kayla Harrison and she's the new face of 145. So that is done, dead. We can move on. 135 now all of a sudden has a shot in the arm. Whether you like it or not, there's a champion. That's great. There wasn't a champion for the past 7 months. So that's an improvement. Raquel Pennington is your champion at 135. You've got Juliana Pena, who's a shot in the arm, who will sell the fight, who's a former champion. And there's a history that dates back 11 years there with Raquel and and Juliana, so that's great. And now you've got Kayla fighting on 300, and you've got rumors of Amanda Nunes considering a comeback. Yeah, shot in the arm. Good stuff. All of a sudden, what a difference a few days make at 135 pounds. Hi, Ariel, from Daniel. Do you know if Kayla has done a test cut to 135? Also, do you think that if she wins at UFC 300, she fights the winner of Pena's title fight, or would Amanda be more appealing? I think that regarding the second part of the question, if she wins, she gets the winner of Pennington and Pena. And then if she wins that, Amanda comes back and fights her. That's what I think happens. Obviously, a lot needs to happen there, but that's how I think the dominoes fall. Pennington Pena in the summer, she wins, she's waiting in the wings, and they're going to strap a rocket to her. And all of this hinges on 135. And then if she wins that, here comes Amanda, and that's a gigantic fight. Now, what about 135? Well, this is what she said to me many moons ago on the program. I think back in 2016 or 17. Do we have a date?
October of 2016.
There it is. Wow. Almost, 7.5 years ago. Here's what she said about fighting at 135.
As you may know, there are less weight classes as far as like the major leagues of MMA for women as there are for men. If you were to fight in MMA, what would be your ideal weight class?
I think realistically, like I would have to cut off both my legs to make 135, so that's out for sure. I've made 145 before, but it was many moons ago. I actually had to I moved up 2 weight classes when Rhonda and I moved to the same training center. So I put on about 20 pounds of muscle before the 2012 Olympics, and I've sat there ever since. So I'd have to lose some weight, and I'd have to figure it out. But I think 145 would be doable for me.
Okay, wow.
In a hypothetical world.
That is fascinating because the talk, again, as you may know, is that there are not a lot of 145 fighters out there. There's not a lot of talent coming up. I can think of no bigger name than you as far as a potential prospect at 145.
So isn't that interesting? She said both legs. I thought it was one leg, both legs. So look, she has a little less than 3 months. She's known about this for at least a few weeks. Back of her mind, she knew the deal was coming up. And she knew that there was no options at 145. So I think she gets it done. I don't think it's easy, but Ultimate Pro, and it's just going to be that weigh-in is going to be huge. It's going to be fascinating. Now, Stefan, Shalom Ariel. Many questions read Kayla. What in the hell was Don Davis doing saying he was confident Kayla would fight in PFL? I think he truly, genuinely believed she had one fight and they were going to get her to get that one fight in. This is why 224 was never going to happen. This is why Chris and her team painting this picture that she was ducking her was disingenuous and not factual. And as I've also said to them, if they were so willing to fight, why aren't they fighting Larissa Pacheco? That was offered. Larissa Pacheco versus Chris Cyborg was offered for February 24th. And the answer that the admin wrote was, we're focused on Kayla. Well, Kayla thing wasn't happening. So this is all redirection. Pacheco versus Cyborg is now the fight to make. And that's a damn good fight because Pacheco's a beast who just beat Kayla Harrison not that long ago and won back-to-back titles as well for PFL. So let's see how easy it's going to be to make that fight. In any event, we continue. I think he believed that. I think he believed it. And, there's often been different interpretations of contracts. And in the end, she was able to walk and sign with UFC. Huge coup for them. If this was the rabbit in the hat, this has been in the works for a while. What does this say about PFL? How many fights did she sign for? Well, here's the thing. She told us in November, before the last fight on the PFL championship, she said, this is my last fight. That's what made this a little bit awkward, and I was surprised by the answer last week, but it's not like they were blindsided by this. They knew this was coming, and I think they were just hoping that they'd win the battle, so to speak. How many fights she signed for? That I don't know. Kayla Cyborg ever? Maybe down the line, but I doubt in the UFC. UFC is just not going to sign Cyborg. I don't think that happens. Is it more likely we see Kayla Amanda with her opening the door for return? Absolutely, 1,000%. What happens if she can't make 135? It's a great question. I don't know if she has a future in in the UFC if she can't make 135. There is no 145, and I don't think that they are willing to reopen that. Maybe for a one-off if she's under contract and that's it, and we're going to get like one last squeeze. But if she wants a future in the UFC, it's got to be at 35. P.S. Gio Reyna with Forrest would be sick. I agree. Forrest becoming America's team, potentially, if they can sign Gio Reyna. That would be fun. I'm down. Chris, Ariel, and crew, with Kayla signing with the UFC and the rabbit being out of the hat, I feel like I need to trademark rabbit in the hat for Kayla. Like, is Kayla, you know how Jim Miller wants to be Jim effing Miller? Should it be like Kayla Rabbit in the Hat Harrison? It's not bad.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Kayla Rabbit in the Hat Harrison.
I did see a couple comments under Dana's video that was like the
rabbit in the hat?
Hat.
Come on. The rabbit in like the magician hat?
Yeah.
Ah, that's great. Love it. Love it. Anyway, how do you see the UFC matchmaking her after a win over Holly? Okay, so yeah, I answered that. I do think that she gets a title shot if she beats Holly. Assuming Rocky versus Pena is booked by the time 300 rolls around, yeah, probably. Do you think Kayla leapfrogs a returning Amanda Nunes? Obviously, the biggest question is how she will make 135. However it works out, glad she's not on the long list of MMA what-ifs. Happy she's getting a shot in the UFC and that there's something interesting happening in a division that desperately needs it. Thanks for the shout-out on the show last week. Looking forward to getting that package in the mail. Supposed to arrive today. Oh, yes, Chris, my guy. I didn't even realize. Thank you so much. And yes, you should be getting it. And yes, this is very exciting. Rick, what do you think about this?
Sorely needed. Needed a new injection of talent, and Kayla Harrison is just that. And now the Pena fight becomes a lot more interesting. The Amanda Nunes return becomes a lot more interesting. There's just so much there that Kayla Harrison, just her presence brings to this division. And then for Kayla, like, she's kind of done everything you can do at PFL. Maybe there would have been more options with Bellator in terms of the Chris Cyborg fight, but this is her opportunity now. This is the big chance she needed, and I think it's a perfect pairing. Now, 135 is I think everybody has the same reaction to this news, which is, wow, this is great, but can she make 135?
Yeah,
it's
we've
literally
been here before with Cyborg, right?
We've been here with Cyborg, who was reluctant, tried it, could not get down. There's certain physicality, there's certain body types that cannot, like, there is not an ounce left of fat to get. I'd be shocked if this weight cut isn't horrendous for Kayla Harrison. And then the question becomes, like, if the weight cut is horrendous, how does it impact her performance? Like, it's gonna be the story of this fight. There's no doubt that making weight is going to be more of a story than the fight itself, at least the first time, and then hopefully we'll see from there.
Even with the acquisition of Bellator, there was one fight left with her in the PFL.
Well,
one fight for her in the PFL. There was literally one fight, right? There's nothing else.
I would watch another Pacheco fight.
You would watch it, but we've seen it 3 times, and it sells like 5 pay-per-views. Let's be honest.
Oh, it's not a big. Don't get me wrong. It's not a big fight.
Oh, there's always going to be.
I think that's a good competitive good fight.
Compare that to going to the absolute biggest organization, fighting on the biggest card of the year, the potential title fight, the potential Pena fight, the potential Amanda, like what?
Nunes is bigger than all these other options.
I was just about to say, is Nunes the biggest women's fight you can make right now?
Sure.
10x.
1,000% bigger than anything. But again, look at Chandler. Look at what will happen to MVP if he wins in March. It's just, you can't compare. I was trying to make the comparison to someone earlier today, and I don't think the comparison of UFC to XFL, USFL is fair, because those are guys who can't make it, and that's unfair to anyone in the PFL or Bellator. I feel like the best comparison, and let me know if you guys feel otherwise, it's like NBA to EuroLeague. We know that there are guys in EuroLeague, like the Doncic's of the world, who usually will play there as youngsters or for whatever reason don't want to leave Europe. We know that a lot of them are good enough, and there are cast-offs. But you also know that there's a massive gap in terms of talent and stakes and competition. And that's what the UFC is to all these other organizations. And so Doncic goes from playing for, I think it was Real Madrid, and then he goes to the Mavericks, and look at him now. He's a global superstar as opposed to a European superstar. That's the difference. And this is just a no-brainer. And remember the last time she re-signed with PFL, everyone was like, B-League fighter, don't want to test yourself, you're scared. All right, so now look at her. Not only is she testing herself, not only is she leaving the shallow waters, she's fighting in a weight class that she's never fought in. By 10 pounds, I mean,
but also, correct me if I'm wrong, at that time, didn't she sign to fight Cyborg and then got matched? Like, wasn't that the...
Oh, yeah, but there was a couple of re-signings. But yes, 100%. She signed an offer sheet from the Bellator organization to fight her on that April 2022 card.
It was Hawaii something, right?
And they matched it.
Yeah.
And so she had no choice.
Right. So that's not up to her then.
No, but you remember there were a couple times where she re-signed and people were like, you suck, you're a B-League fighter.
Yeah, of course.
And she definitely remembers that. I could tell you.
And then she got a few $1 million
whenever she wins any sort of championships, despite winning $1 million. If she pulls this off, if she becomes UFC champ, it'll be unbelievable. Which, by the way, DraftKings Sportsbook has her as plus 300 to be bantamweight champion by the end of the year.
You know what's crazy? When I did my 2024 predictions, my two big predictions were Kayla Harrison, women's bantamweight champion, and Armin Tsarukyan.
I almost called up DraftKings. It was like, can we get a number added? Maybe like a plus 10,000.
You guys need to learn. I don't pick this stuff out of my butt. It's informed speculation. You understand what I'm saying? Informed.
Is there a world where she gets in and then the next fight is Amanda Nunes and not at 135?
Yeah, it's possible. Anything's possible.
I think that's a much more viable path. I don't know if Kayla Harrison is going to have a lot of cuts to 135 in her, even if she has one.
Yeah,
why not? You beat Holly Holm, Amanda Nunes, Kayla Harrison, 140, 145. I mean, Amanda Nunes was the 145-pound champion. There is not another 145-pound champion. Just do that.
Yeah,
don't
maybe there's a point after this one where she's like, "Screw this shit. I don't want to do this."
Yeah, I think this one will be very telling.
Also, don't forget,
if she can make it. She can make it.
Unlike a lot of MMA fighters who have short amateur careers and just kind of jump in, she had 2 Olympic cycles.
Yes.
Not to mention all the competitions leading up to
whole career of judo.
Yes. Which isn't like a walk in the park on the body. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think she's sticking around for another 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating. Big back. Ariel, does the Kayla signing mean the true end of 145? I believe so. I feel like this could have been the easiest layup to resurrect the division if they wanted to, and also putting a title on a future star. Stay as cool as the other side of the pillow, man. Big back. Thanks, bud. I believe it's the end. Erwin Smith. Bonsoir, Ariel and LaCroix. And by the way, I don't think that this is the end. I think this is just further confirmation that it's done. First, I'd like to send all my sympathy to Ariel and the Bills. There's always next year, mon ami. Thank you. I saw the press conference with Josh Allen on Monday, one of the most impressive press conferences that I've ever seen after a very, disappointing loss. What a guy. Our time is coming. I believe it. Second, with Amanda hinting at coming out of retirement and Chris Cyborg calling her out for 300, if some way, somehow Dana makes the fight happen, will that fight be main event worthy? Bon après-midi à tout le monde. Guys, do you not agree? There's a better chance of me being the play-by-play man at UFC 300 than Chris Cyborg getting signed to fight Amanda Nunes at UFC 300. There's a better chance.
What about... 300? No.
Period.
But what about Cyborg just for one fight down the line? No. That I could see.
Are you nuts? No.
I could... Listen, I get it. I know that it didn't go well with Cyborg and UFC and Dana White. But if you're in a situation where you've got Kayla Harrison as champion, or even Juliana Pena running out of potential options to fight,
they're not signing her, man.
You don't go into business with Cyborg to do multiple fights, but one fight.
Not only are they not signing Cyborg,
you just have to show up on one night.
They tell people now they're never signing Francis. They'll never sign Nate Diaz.
I get it.
You burn them, you're done.
Yeah.
And the Cyborg, burning the flame, like it was a tough marriage to begin with, and it wasn't a pretty divorce. So it ain't.
Say Kayla gets the belt. She fights Nunes.
There's so many ifs there.
She beats Nunes. Then they bring Larissa Pacheco over in a
there's a better chance
Alex
of me
Pereira
being the new UFC president. I'll be at the fucking New York Stock Exchange ringing the bell.
I said Larissa Pacheco, not Chris Cyborg.
Okay, sorry.
Alex Pereira-esque. Larissa Pacheco is the Alex Pereira.
Don't hate that.
Pacheco
Don't hate
is
that.
the Cyborg. Or to Harrison.
Yeah, I mean that seems viable. It just doesn't seem like the big fight, but that seems very viable.
Is women's bantamweight the best weight class in the UFC now?
Period. All of a sudden,
I'm thinking.
what a difference.
That's what I'm thinking.
3 days.
When I say bantamweight, know that I mean women's, not men's.
Yes, 100%. Oh, it's so much better than men's. H. Dela Cruz, 24. Hot tag. Nick Khan and WWE being ahead of the curve once again. I told you guys, don't count this guy out. He is ahead of the curve. He's 5 steps ahead of everyone. Best signing in WWE history. Everyone who was, it was so funny seeing these people who had never heard of him criticize him in the early days when he came over in 2020. Knows the business better than anyone, and you have someone there who knows every executive and knows where media is going and is able to open doors and have conversations. They just signed a deal, guys, with Netflix. Netflix, who had never been in the live sports business. I know that they've dabbled in some golf. They've dabbled in some live with comedy. But live sports and entertainment, and what a marriage, right? It fits perfectly with sports, entertainment. It's not quite sports. It's not quite full-on entertainment. It's sports entertainment. And on top of it, 52 weeks out of the year, never, and I say, for now, it seems like they're saying Monday, but I think that they're smart enough, and Nick in particular, who has changed a lot of things since coming over, right? Sunday nights always used to be the pay-per-view night. Changed it to Saturday. They used to not go to markets like Vegas and other ones, international markets for pay-per-views. Now look at what they're doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one saying, look, 18 Mondays out of the year, you're getting Monday Night Football. Another Monday, you're getting the national championship in college football. Another Monday, you're getting the men's college basketball national championship. That's 20 Mondays right there. That's almost half the year that we have serious competition, right? Like no one wants to go up against Monday Night Football with the package that ESPN and ABC, because it's now simulcast on both, not to mention the Manningcast success. Why do we need this? So let's go on Tuesday or whatever, maybe Wednesday. Who the hell knows? So that's a story to watch out for. It was very interesting that Monday was not in the press release. Nevertheless, he opens the door to Netflix, which is like the forbidden land that everyone had been wondering about, who will get to them first as far as live sports entertainment is concerned. They get this 52 weeks out of the year. It's all uniform. So if you're in Canada, you're watching on Netflix. If you're in the UK, you're watching on Netflix. If you're in Latin America, you're watching on Netflix. So think about the promotion. Think about, we don't have to say Sportsnet in Canada, TNT in UK, USA. No, it's all one home. And then think about the amount of people who just go on Netflix. There was once a time where you're just like flipping through channels. There's once a time you're reading TV Guide. There's once a time you're going through the DirecTV Guide. Now what you do is you throw on Netflix and you see, there is a documentary about the 2022 World Cup. Great, I'll watch that. There's a show about whether a purse is cake or not. Let me watch that. You know what I mean? Like that sets the viewing for people. And now people are going to have Roman Reigns and The Rock and Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley in their face. Oh, wrestling, not to mention the ancillary shows and documentaries and pre-shows and post-shows. This is freaking huge game changer to the nth degree. Massive. People were debating Hulu. They were debating FX. They were debating Amazon. They were debating Apple. 240 plus million subscribers worldwide. Unbelievable. What a deal. Blown away by it. Didn't see it coming. And a total game changer for the sport, for the industry, and for sports media in general, in my opinion. What's also interesting about it is WWE sold this package for $5 billion over 10 years. Like I said, they have the option for 5, they have the option for 20. But that's like, the nuts and bolts. Not only did they do that, they also sold SmackDown to USA Network. They're getting over $1 billion there over a number of years. They sold NXT to CW. So it's not just like they gave the whole damn thing to Netflix. They even were able to cut it up there. Now, overseas and in other territories outside of the U.S., all of it is going to go there. But then, on top of all of that, 2026, the PLE/pay-per-view rights here in America are up. And that's on Peacock. And so now they're going to shop that again. And if Netflix wants that, meaning WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and I would be shocked if they didn't, they're going to make a boatload off of that. Oh my God. It's like a cash register on fire. It's an incredible deal. And so that's why the big question now is, what happens to the UFC? They're both under the same umbrella. It's the same power players. It's Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro and Nick. It's all these guys in there now going to sell UFC. I wouldn't be surprised if UFC goes to Netflix. UFC has tried to recreate the WWE model. Almost 52 weeks out of the year, 7 hours a weekend, all kinds of ancillary weigh-in show, pre-show, post-show. It's almost the exact same thing. One big pay-per-view a month, all of that. They're going to make a killing. And their deal is up at the end of 2025. And their initial deal was for 7 years, $1.5 billion with ESPN. They're going to make, I don't know, 3x, 4x now for the next deal. They are crushing it. The whole thing is crushing. So fascinating times. And I was just blown away that they were able to get that done because no one was really predicting that. Everyone knew that Netflix was going to get into this world at some point. But in what way? Huge. Now, the one other thing that is worth noting is the deal with Raw and USA Network, NBC, expires October of 24. So there's a gap there between October of 24 and January of 25. What they do, I'm sure they'll figure it out. But that is unclear. And then there's other things like, people were asking me about TNT in the UK, which I had a contract with, and that contract is done. I don't know what's going to happen with me and them. If WWE's not there, I don't know if there's a future there. We'll see. I don't know. My guess is, and I don't have any insider information here, believe it or not, because I don't have any contract there, is that they probably just re-signed for a year to make everything align for January of 25, and then we're off and running, and it's a whole new era. Anyway, from going to WWE Network to Peacock and now full streaming a weekly show, UFC staying on ESPN might just be a $10 billion deal now. This is from H. Dela Cruz. Yeah, I mean, look at the success, ESPN Plus pay-per-view. And isn't it amazing? Remember when WWE made the decision to put all the pay-per-views on the network and how they were criticized for it? That ended up being such a bold and brilliant move, really, to take everything in-house and then be able to package that all. I mean, you remember when they used to have those like promos about like $9.99, and they were just ramming it, and people were like, oh my God, they put WrestleMania on a streaming platform for $9.99? Are you crazy? Now look at them, laughing all the way to the New York Stock Exchange. Space Jam 1. Hey guys, wanted to show appreciation and thanks for providing the best damn show on the YouTube streets, even after all these years. To clarify, I plan my long runs with my dog while listening to the show. I believe this is the gentleman who last week was talking about running with his dog, and I wasn't sure. Anyway, he says, who is making the fatty boom body here? Sorry, who is smoking the fatty boom body, thinking Kayla can continually make 135? Hasn't she previously said she can't and will not fight it that way? Yeah, but she's a gamer. Also, Chris Cyborg asking for Amanda Nunes at 300 is fun, but unlikely. We'll be neat to see how 300 finalizes. Still a wellspring of opportunities. Shout out to yous guys. Thanks, bud. Much appreciated. I was bouncing around here, so let me just get back on track. I'm all kinds of fired up here today. Hello, Ariel. What's your take on The Rock being appointed to UFC/WWE's TKO Group Board of Directors? Cheers. So you wake up in the morning, yesterday morning, Tuesday morning, and all of a sudden you see The Rock and another gentleman added to the Board of Directors. Like, wow, that's pretty cool. Rock Board of Directors, the come up. And then you read through the fine print and you find out that The Rock now owns the trademark to The Rock. Dwayne Johnson now owns The Rock. He owns that trademark. That's a gigantic deal. And I love the interview that he had on CNBC with Ari Emanuel, and he said, that's my dad's name, Rocky Maivia. I wanted this so much. He got emotional. What a deal. I mean, just think about the stuff, the Under Armour stuff, his merch, all that. Like, he now owns The Rock. He owns it. He owns the name and likeness. So massive. That to me is the real story there. Great board of directors. Head of the table. He's going to fight Roman. The question is, though, does he now fight Roman at 40 in April, or do they do Cody Roman and then they build Roman Rock for next year on with the Netflix build? Because they can't have it on pay-per-view on Netflix. Like, they can't have Mania on Netflix next year because the Peacock deal is done in 26. But you can use Netflix January, February, March, April to build to that. That's going to be the question. You remember when the internet said that they were going to do Rock versus Roman in Perth at Elimination Chamber? Remember when they said that in a month? Remember when they said Nick Khan was ruining WWE? This is why you can't listen to these people. Exhibit A.
By the way,
yes,
I have something to provide to this conversation.
Breaking news?
Surprisingly.
Okay.
Well, I saw reports this morning that Cody Rhodes is not going to face, and forgive me because I don't know the outlets. I'm not.
Look
tapped
at
into
you,
the
you
wrestling
Mark.
world.
Yes.
But I did see that Cody Rhodes is not going to face Roman Reigns, which means, to me, it seems like The Rock. No.
No. Listen. The internet also said that it was going to be Rock Roman in Perth. So my initial reaction was Rock Roman, WrestleMania 40. But now that I'm just seeing all this stuff and Rock's playing like ultimately, if I had to bet, I say it's probably going to be WrestleMania 40, meaning April in Philly.
Do you save it for the first one on Netflix?
Well, you can't do that because
why not?
Because like I said, the PLE deal is up in 26. So even though Raw's on Netflix next year, the pay-per-views are still on Peacock. So yes, that would be perfect.
And SmackDown is also just to wrap the whole conversation. SmackDown is also not on Netflix, right?
In America, SmackDown will be on USA. Rest of the world, Raw and SmackDown on Netflix.
Got it.
So that's UK,
and then ultimately your forecast is when everything is available, they'll package it up and Netflix will want to buy.
But you know what? Not a bad
sense.
world to be in where you have a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. You know what I mean?
I think it's honestly better, if I'm being honest, than having everything in. What inevitably happens when you do that type of deal, one or the other gets aggrieved at some point or isn't happy or whatever. It's better to have it spread around. But then at the same time, if Netflix is offering up $5 billion just for Raw in the US and then maybe more for their others, it's hard to turn that type of money down. Maybe SmackDown and PLEs is going to get them another $5 billion.
Remember when people said wrestling was dead? Remember when people were saying, you know what's another thing? You know how people, especially on online, the dirt sheets, as people like to say, which I don't hate. I don't like when people
are they not reputable? I always hear that term. Are they not good?
It's stupid. No, it's fine. They're fine. They're good. Yes.
Okay.
They're just as good as MMA media. And we think highly of them here too. So all good. Anyway, but one beauty of Netflix, and this is a byproduct of being on Netflix. It's not why they went to Netflix, but now no one's breaking down their quarter ratings. Oh, it popped here. It's down here. It's up this. There's no ratings anymore. The ratings game is gone. For Raw, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting
Netflix
if it stays on Mondays.
Netflix is notoriously difficult to get data and information out of. You will never know how something did ever again.
Which I like. I wish YouTube didn't have the numbers right there in your face. Mainly for my ego. Anyway, we continue. Jax, cheers, Ariel. Hope all is well. With the craziness WWE had with deals and announcements in the past few days, it gets a person thinking, what's the likelihood that Apple and or Amazon launch a challenger sports media brand to ESPN? They're getting into sports, right? Amazon with the NFL, Apple with MLS, two gigantic deals in their own right. But do they launch a whole separate thing? I think that might. I think they just want the properties. And you know what's great? Again, going back to the WWE thing and going back to the UFC, entities like Amazon or Netflix or Apple will like this because WWE is turnkey, UFC is turnkey, meaning we sign you and then you produce it. We don't have to worry about anything. We don't have to employ the production staff. We don't have to get this person, that person, and they love that. So Netflix doesn't have to worry about any of this. WWE has their own team that will take over all of this, and that's a huge, huge advantage. Handsome Rob, hola Ariel, with WWE's Monday Night Raw, and again, they never said Monday night. It's currently Monday Night Raw. I wouldn't be shocked if it moves to another day. And that's no insider info there at all, but just, given the competition, might make a lot of sense. Could we see the UFC follow suit, or do you think they will stay with ESPN? I think ESPN does everything in their power to keep them. They're very, very happy with the UFC. If they don't, they have the PFL right there, and they'll try to build it up. But I think ESPN does every single thing in their power to keep the UFC, and I think that TKO is in a great position, and they'll shop UFC to them and to Netflix and to everyone, and may the highest bidder win. But I think ESPN is going to try very hard to keep him. JD, Miami. Greetings from Miami, guys. This goes out to GC and Frank. You said Monday that you will definitely have a food edition for $2.99 Miami. May I suggest that no Miami Eats edition is complete without a Cuban colada, which is not an espresso. Aside from that, I'd like to know what meals you're even eyeing for that. Media noche sandwich, pan con bistec, classic Cuban, and does Ariel do pickles on his Cuban? Now, the Cuban historically has ham in it, does it not?
Yes.
Yeah, so no Cuban.
Cuban colada, he said? You want to list those off again for me?
Sure. Sorry, I was reading it fast. Cuban colada, which he expresses in all caps, not an espresso.
Okay.
Aside from that, he wants to know the meals. Media noche sandwich.
Yeah. Heard of it.
Pan con bistec.
Yeah.
Classic Cuban.
All right. Noted.
Sweet.
Thank you.
But all to say, you aren't ready just yet, right?
No, we still got to find a place.
Yeah.
That's down the road. We still got Anaheim to tackle.
Thomas, just a thought. Hopefully one of them is picked, one of my questions. My question is, does the UFC purposely put press conferences on a separate platform from ESPN to avoid repercussions for possibly damaging statements made by fighters? I could see ESPN being okay with the stuff being said at press conferences because it's on YouTube and because most of the stuff on their platform only pertains to fights. No, I don't think that goes into it. Not at all. I think they are probably hoping that, that kind of stuff isn't said, but nevertheless, I don't think that goes into it. King Zalo, greetings, Ariel and crew. Hope all is well. Had a chance to see you in the Puerto Rico press conference. Great job with the Spanish and the overall conference. Muchas gracias. I remember seeing you. You were very kind. FYI, I've had the pleasure twice before, 214 workouts, and at a hotel at 246. You're the GOAT. Thank you. Couple questions. One, I couldn't help but notice that after our interaction, I touched you twice over the shoulder as a friendly gesture. Knowing how clean you are, I was mulling over my actions throughout the presser. Wanted to know if that was something that you thought about throughout our interaction. No, it's okay. If it's a fan, I'm totally okay. You can hug and kiss me, no problem. Did you get a chance to have a traditional Puerto Rican dish while you were here? If so, give us the rating. I went to a place next to the hotel called Polina. I had a fantastic meal. I had a nice soup. I had a couple of empanadas, which seemed to be the recommendation. I even had a taco. And then I went for some ice cream because I didn't eat anything all day and I was feeling really good about myself and I was loving the heat. And then I felt a little bit sick after. And then I woke up at 2:30 and I had to wake up at 5:30 for a 7 o'clock flight, or maybe it was a 7:30 flight, whatever it was. And I just couldn't go back to sleep, which never happens. I actually thought I was going to throw up, guys. So it was a poor ending. But I enjoyed the experience nonetheless, and I can't wait to go back for the fight. Konas Atu. I don't know how to say that. That's in Irish. Konas Atatu. How are you in Irish? Quick fire questions today. Will John Jones fight Tom Aspinall in 24-25? I say 25. Will Nate Diaz fight in the UFC in 24-25? Maybe 25, but long shot. Will Sean O'Malley ever fight Merab? Yes. Will Conor McGregor beat Michael Chandler? I don't make picks. Will Khamzat fight for a belt before 25? Yes. Who will be the middleweight champion on January 1st? I don't make picks. Okay, just a couple more. We recently learned that New York Rick's favorite Sports Illustrated cover was Winter 1997's Tyra Banks' Nothing But Bikinis issue. Great shout. With that in mind, what is yours, GC's, and Frank's favorite Sports Illustrated covers? Shout out to the YouTube chat. Gav, do you guys have one? Favorite Sports Illustrated cover? I mentioned on Twitter on Friday, I love the one with Vladimir Guerrero on the cover in the mid-90s because I couldn't believe that the Expos were actually being featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated. There was
That's tough right off the top of the dome.
Yeah. Were you a big Sports Illustrated guy?
Oh, yeah. Subscribed from like 01 to like 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every week. There were a couple times where like when the Georgia or the Falcons or like an Atlanta team made it, I loved it.
Yeah, those were fun when it was like the local team.
It really felt like special, like you couldn't believe it.
Yes. You felt like the pride, right?
Oh, yeah. When you're getting the national mag and it's got your team on the cover.
Andrew from Alaska. Hello, Ariel. I was wondering if you could break the fourth wall for us. During your interview with Juliana, I realized the guys in the back could talk to the guests if they wanted to. Has there ever been consideration to letting the guys ask a question to their favorite fighters? Example, Frank asks Jake Paul a question. Thank you for all you do. I think we've done this before, no? Haven't we done this?
Usually the cut-ins are to throw somebody under the bus.
Wow.
You know?
I think
Hey,
the
you
question's to
said
you.
that.
I'm not a big interviewer.
You know, and then toss to the back to eat the crow.
Okay. But
Also, that's not really true answer. That's not really the format of the show, right? Like, you don't come here to hear me and GC like talking to the guests. Like, the format of the show is Ariel Helwani, the best in the business.
But I don't mind if you guys want to jump in, by the way.
I also feel like if we had a question we were dying to ask, you'd be like, yeah, fire away.
Yeah, 1,000%. You have carte blanche.
The chances that I come up with a question that you haven't already thought of and would phrase and ask better are slim to none. But if the occasion ever arose, I'd probably rather toss it to you than do anything.
But just so you know, you have carte blanche.
Plus, 99% of the time we would just chime in. They wouldn't see us. They'd be like, "Oh, who the hell is it? Like, who is this?
Who is that? What is that?
Like, who's that asking?"
Like when DC
it'd be awkward. It'd be an awkward.
Not Juliana. She loves you guys.
Yeah, Juliana is an exception.
No, of course,
Happy to hop
it's
on
different.
Juliana. I mean, she's one of us.
That's a colleague. That's a different scenario. That's a colleague.
She's one of our own. Drew, hello, Ariel. Big fan. Over under 3.5 title fights at UFC 300. I'll say under. Now, BMF counts. I'll say they end up with 3. Anyone disagree?
No, that feels like the number.
Okay.
BMF counts. I'm going to say 4. I'm going to get ambitious.
Let's go with one more. This is from, I cut off the name when I was doing the screen grabs, so that's on me. But you'll know. Oh, Gavin. It might be Gavin again. Ariel, I agree with the vast majority of your opinions, but your obsession with fighters' uniforms drives me nuts, especially when talking to the likes of a Don Davis, who could allow fighters to come out dressed like F1 cars again. Your argument is usually GSP dressing up like a Karate Kid or Chuck Liddell's blue shorts gave those guys more character. But even if that's true, most fighters just use their shorts as billboards for sale. And yeah, what's wrong with that? Let them get paid. DC had dip your car plastered over his arse. Anderson Silva wanted us to eat a Burger King, and John Jones was an Xbox guy, apparently. And you don't think that's cool? DJ with the Xbox shorts? I love that. It looked cheap and tacky and almost never added any personality to the cage. What do you prefer? The fighters getting paid for having dip your car on their arse? And by the way, that's a sign of the times. 2024, I suspect they'll get even like more high-profile sponsors, or all those ads being on the mat and the ring posts, and they get 0% of it. What would you prefer? You've just outed yourself as not fighter first. In any event, I continue. It looked cheap and tacky. I appreciate Americans are used to being advertised at consistently, but it's jarring for the rest of us to be subjected to more eye spam in a sport stuffed with it. Wow. Don, if you're listening, mate, Ariel is wrong on this one. Think of the fight metrics. Cheers, guys, and keep up the top work. That was a good line at the end, I will admit. Anything that gets the fighters paid more is fine by me and something that I support. I didn't mind it. They had cool outfits. It's not so much about the sponsors. It's about being themselves, being unique, having different outfits, all that stuff and more, and not looking the same. I hate that sort of thing. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.